WYZZ News at 9 starts right now.
We're learning more about the crash that killed an Illinois state trooper, what investigators say happened. Plus, limiting parking options for trailers, how proposed changes could impact you. And a local bus system makes room for people with disabilities, what those changes mean for riders. But breaking news off the top at 9, the FBI arrests a man for the kidnapping of a Chinese scholar visiting the University of Illinois. 27-year-old Brent Christensen has been charged with kidnapping Yingying Zhang on June 9th. Christensen is accused of driving the black Saturn Astra that picked up Zhang. Agents say they overheard him admitting to kidnapping Zhang on Thursday. Law enforcement does believe Zhang is dead. Christensen is due in court in Urbana on Monday. Well, the historic stalemate continues as Illinois is about to enter its third fiscal year without a balanced budget. Good evening, I'm Paul Cicchini. Lauren Langer has the night off. It was day 10 of the special session in Springfield, but state lawmakers will have to work into the holiday weekend. The House voted on a $36.5 billion spending bill amendment, but additional voting is required. Several Republicans voted for the bill, a first in a long time. The GOP members supported a Democrat-introduced budget plan. The Central Illinois Republicans, Ryan Spain and Keith Summer, voted no, but Mike Eunice voted yes, along with Dan Brady. Speaker Michael Madigan thanked members after the vote, but says negotiations on a tax increase are needed to help balance the budget. He also sent a letter to bond rating agencies asking them to hold off on downgrading the state's credit rating to junk status.
To defer any further opinion or budget making.
Tomorrow, lawmakers will possibly vote on a nearly 5% income tax hike. It is the same one the Senate introduced in its so-called grand bargain, with the exception of some service taxes. Well, here's a look at what could happen if no budget deal is reached. According to the Chicago Sun-Times, 36% of human service agencies would close in 6 months, causing at least 40,000 people with disabilities and about 80,000 people with mental health needs to lose services. At least 69,000 people needing substance abuse treatment would be denied. Hiring freezes at hospitals would continue, and much-needed road projects would stop, costing tens of thousands of workers their jobs. Well, the state's debt is considered below investment grade, which means if Illinois reaches a new low, borrowing money will cost more because interest rates will be higher. Building roads or refinancing existing debt will be more expensive. A federal judge's recent ruling that the state would have to start paying down more of its $2 billion backlog in Medicaid bills shook investors and tanked Illinois bond prices. The state owes over $14 billion in unpaid bills. Well, if you haven't purchased a Mega Millions ticket, time's running out. Sales end at 9:45. Illinois cut off Powerball tickets at 9 p.m. Wednesday. Big winners will have to wait for their payouts because without formal authorization, the comptroller can't cut checks to people who win over $25,000. Well, Governor Rauner vetoes a 911 funding bill. It would have increased surcharges on 911 calls to fund dispatch centers. We spoke with Peoria County's dispatch center earlier this month, which said it would have to use reserve funds if the bill didn't pass. Now, the bill isn't dead yet. The governor issued an amendatory veto, which means he is sending it back to lawmakers with suggested changes. Well, Easter Seals is among many local nonprofits suffering in the shadow of the budget impasse. The group is keeping a close eye on what's happening in the Capitol, hoping the recent action means state funding will soon be sent its way.
For some time now, he's moving in a good direction.
Steve Thompson says the state sends money to Easter Seals, ensuring its services for children and families living with autism continues. If universities are forced to start a third straight school year with no state funding, they could lose their accreditation. According to the Chicago Tribune, if school enrollment drops, staff and program cuts continue, and reserves dry up, colleges could face sanctions. These financial struggles make it more difficult for colleges to fill key jobs. Leaders at Peoria Public Schools say they're prepared to use money in their reserves if lawmakers don't reach a budget deal.
I think the governor would give us a signed budget.
At the Peoria School Board meeting, Gregory Wilson was elected as the only new member to the board, replacing retiring member Lynn Kostick. Well, for more on the state's budget battle, visit our website, ciproud.com. We'll say goodbye to Bradley University's Baker Hall. The building came down as part of a $100 million project, bringing the colleges of engineering and business under one roof. The new building will be the largest on Bradley's campus. It'll be called the Foster College of Business and Caterpillar College of Engineering and Technology. Well, the Village of Morton is trying to pass an ordinance that could leave some looking for a storage unit to park their work trailers. WYZZ's Brianna Lee has more.
I have to park my trailer.
In Morton, Brianna Lee, WYZZ News.
Newell says his trailer has expensive tools, adding it would be a financial blow if they were stolen. He says it would also be time-consuming for his family and customers to drive to an off-site storage unit. Well, CityLink receives its new fleet of vehicles today. It's the first set of paratransit vehicles CityLink will get in the coming weeks. Now, the vehicles have the capacity to hold up to 14 people and several wheelchairs. They have a specially designed roof, providing improved passenger safety.
Every wheelchair properly and safely.
CityLink will continue to receive paratransit vehicles over the next 5 weeks. An arson investigation is underway in Peoria after a fire breaks out in an empty house on the 2400 block of Proctor. Happened around 4:30 this morning. Melted power lines prevented crews from going inside. New details emerge in the crash that killed an Illinois State Police trooper on Wednesday.
We will never forget Ryan Sick. We will remember him.
Police are still investigating what caused the crash, but believe Ryan Albin's patrol car hit the back of a box truck. His canine companion, Biko, was with him during the crash and has no significant injuries. Albin leaves behind a 6-year-old daughter and 2-year-old son. His visitation is Wednesday from 2 to 8 at Blue Ridge High School in Farmer City. His funeral will be at 10 a.m. Thursday, also at the high school. Pekin native and Bradley University golfer Drake Bouchon won the CDGA Amateur Tournament in Indiana this afternoon. The Bradley Jr. defeated Michael Fastert in the 36-hole championship. It's one of the oldest amateur competitions in the country. Matt McLean has highlights ahead in sports. We'll prepare to break out the sunglasses this weekend. Let's check in with meteorologist Brooke Brighton for a quick look at the forecast. Brooke?
Well, Paul, the good news is I'll break down possible rain chances coming up later in the show. But first, Paul, back to you.
Brooke, thanks. A party at odds over repealing and replacing Obamacare. The changes members of Congress want to see before putting it to a vote. And a natural option for feeding babies may be linked to dental problems. What you should know before breastfeeding.
First, WYZZ News at 9 starts right now.
Your child's college career could soon be covered. The plan being discussed in the state capitol. Plus, a balanced budget proposal in progress. The pitches lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are making to Governor Rauner. And an advocate for peace becomes a victim of gun violence. The message he's sending to Central Illinois. But topping our 9 at 9.
Using a deadly nerve agent, Assad choked out the lives of helpless men, women, and children.
The U.S. takes military action against the Syrian regime. Good evening, I'm Paul Cicchini. Warships launching 59 Tomahawk cruise missiles from the Mediterranean Sea, hitting the Syrian military airbase that carried out chemical attacks on the Syrian people. The strike marks the first direct military action the U.S. has taken against Syria's President Bashar al-Assad during Syria's 6-year civil war. Russian President and Syrian ally Vladimir Putin called the strikes, quote, an act of aggression and a serious blow to U.S.-Russia relations. Members of Illinois' congressional delegation are reacting to the military strike. As WYZZ's Shane Gustafson reports, both Democrats and Republicans say President Trump made the right decision, but they are wondering what comes next.
I think it was a necessary.
In Peoria, Shane Gustafson, WYZZ News.
Several other lawmakers reacted to the strike, among them Congressman Rodney Davis, who says in part, quote, the swift action by President Trump and our military sent a clear message to the world that America will not tolerate the use of chemical weapons. I hope Assad hears this message loud and clear. Shares of missile makers jump following the airstrike in Syria. Raytheon makes the Tomahawk missile fired at the Syrian airbase. Those 59 missiles cost more than $1.5 million each. For complete coverage on the U.S. strike in Syria, visit ciproud.com. At least 4 people are dead, and officials in Sweden remain on high alert after an attack in one of the busiest shopping districts in Stockholm. A truck was driven into a group of people before it crashed into a department store not far from the central train station and Parliament. 15 others were injured. A manhunt remains underway for the driver. The Senate votes 54 to 45 to confirm Judge Neil Gorsuch as the 113th Justice to the Supreme Court. Gorsuch will fill the seat left vacant since February 2016 by the death of Justice Antonin Scalia. Senate Republicans chose the nuclear option, ending a Democratic filibuster and advancing President Trump's nomination with a simple majority, rather than the historical 60-vote threshold. Justices are appointed for life, giving Mr. Trump a lasting legacy in the judicial branch. Gorsuch will be sworn in Monday morning. The daughter of one of the strongest advocates for the Peoria community against violence is involved in a shooting Wednesday night. As WYZZ's Alyssa Paldo reports, the victims in the crash are expected to recover from their physical injuries.
I'm so happy.
Alyssa Paldo, WYZZ News.
Burnside's daughter and grandson are expected to be released from the hospital soon. No word yet, though, on any arrests in connection with that shooting. The man who led police on a car chase in East Peoria makes an appearance in court. Todd Fredericks is facing 2 counts of armed violence and aggravated discharge of a gun. His bond is set at $250,000. He's due back in court May 4th. Construction season right around the corner. Some projects, in fact, already underway, with more expected to begin Monday.
Probably the most, some bridge painting.
Drivers should expect a shift in traffic and to start planning on allowing extra time for their commute. IDOT says expect lane closures as more work begins on the Cedar Street Bridge. Shoulder work will get underway on Highway 116 in Hannah City. IDOT is reminding drivers, if you see orange, slow down, allow extra space, and stay off your cell phone. An update to a domestic situation leads to 2 deaths in Creve Coeur. Police say Jeremy Brown shot and killed Billy Castellano, then turned the gun on himself. The murder-suicide was discovered after family and friends called police requesting a wellness check. The state Senate approves a bill that would impose harsher prison sentences on repeat offenders. The vote 39-9. Those who oppose it say it will increase incarceration. Supporters say it'll keep criminals off the streets and communities safe.
If they're going to do these crimes.
Lawmakers say they are working to decrease the prison populations by getting lower-level offenders out of jail sooner. Governor Rauner applauding a Republican effort to advance a balanced budget. The state hasn't had a full budget in nearly 2 years. There are 2 factions pulling in 2 directions. One group of Republicans wants no new taxes and massive spending cuts. Another group is pushing for a combination of cuts, tax increases, and other reforms. House Democrats approved a new stopgap or lifeline budget, spending $817 million on human services and higher education. Governor Rauner says he's doing his part to pass a budget.
Have you fulfilled your completely ignored our budget?
Now, the budget presented by the governor was nearly $5 billion out of balance because it accounted for that amount of money in savings by relying on the Senate to pass its so-called grand bargain, which it, of course, has not. A moment of truth could arrive next week if this stopgap legislation arrives on the governor's desk. Dozens of people in central Illinois are now citizens. Nearly 90 people received American citizenship this morning. Representatives Darren LaHood and Sherry Bustos joined friends and family for the naturalization ceremony at the Peoria Public Library. The group, representing several countries, said their oaths and celebrated. There's an overwhelming demand for H-1B visas. Now, the visa is a non-immigrant visa that allows U.S. companies to hire workers in specialty jobs. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services says it has already reached its congressionally mandated threshold of 85,000 visas for the new fiscal year. The news comes 4 days after the new application period opened on Monday. It also comes amid a growing call from the Trump administration to crack down on abuse of the visa. The agency will use a lottery system to determine which applicants are selected. Well, a blow to the Missouri Valley Conference as Wichita State is officially accepted into the American Athletic Conference. The Shockers will leave the Valley this summer. Kurt Pegler will have more on that later in sports. Let's check in with meteorologist Brooke Brighton, who has a quick look at the forecast. Brooke?
Well, Paul, temperatures as Paul, back to you.
Brooke, thanks. Coming up, could prison nurses get a lifeline from the governor? Look at the legislation that may save their jobs. Plus, getting veterans off the streets and into a home, how Goodwill is giving them a roof and trying to get them a job.